Hi everybody, welcome to day 5. My name is Matt Atwood and I am going to be walking you through the importance of fasting. So welcome to Cleanse Day Fasting 101. All right, let's get after it. So what is fasting? Now, before we even talk about what fasting is, let's talk about what fasting is not. When talking to folks about fasting, especially people who have never done it before, you have to actually reassure them that fasting is not starvation or malnutrition. In fact, it's just the opposite. So just think of fasting more as a time-restricted feeding schedule, and based on our caveman genetics, our bodies are designed to go long periods of time without food. Now, scientific literature continues to support an intermittent fasting type diet on a recurring basis as a long-term intervention in terms of weight loss and weight management. So we're only now beginning to recognize that more eating and less fasting is the root cause of obesity. And obesity is directly related to chronic diseases in the United States like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, chronic pain, inflammation, autoimmune disorders, and that's not even counting mental stuff. So let's talk about that. You've got mental disorders like stress, anxiety, depression, low self-image, and low self-esteem. So how can we avoid all of this? Here are 3 keys to creating and maintaining a healthier you. So talking about the 3 keys is, number 1 is what you eat. The nutritional quality of food is incredibly important in being able to maintain a healthy weight and being able to stay at a healthy norm. Okay, so when you're doing that, you can identify the amount of quality you eat, and especially if it's on a high nutrient level. And what I tell everybody is, if you can take a typical American diet, like a high calorie, low nutrient diet, and flip it to a high nutrient, low calorie diet, that's the key, number 1 key. Now, you can do that all day long, but if you continue to eat too much of a good thing, you're still having too many calories and you're not going to lose any weight and you're not going to be doing anything. So you have to be careful and cautious about the amount of food. And it's not necessarily amount of food. You could have a very high calorie food just in a little bit, or have a lot of food that's also very low calorie. So it depends on what you're eating, but how much you eat is important because your body can only process about 600 to 700 calories per sitting. And that's where the magic spot. You need to be between that 600, 700 calories when you sit down and have a bite to eat. Now, if it's the shakes are going to be considerably less than that. That's why you're allowed snacks in between the 2 meals, because now you can still maintain that protein pacing capability of being able to process protein throughout the day. Now, you have these 2 things, but that's not all it takes. You need the third one. The third one is when you eat. So you're looking at what you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat, because the timing of when you eat is also very, very important to this. And if you were to look at what's the most important, well, honestly, if you take one of those out, it's not going to work. So you really need to take all 3 of them into account when you're doing this particular program or anything else. I mean, when it comes down to diet, you need to look at these 3 things all the time. You need to evaluate and keep that in the back of your head. Now, let's go through some fasting terminology. Now, fasting in general can be categorized in multiple ways as far as the timing and the type. Intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, dry fasting, water fasting, juice fasting, circadian rhythm fasting, all that stuff is different protocols. But by combining the Isagenix protein pacing with the nutrition program that is successfully proven fasting protocols is the key to fat loss. More energy, better sleep, higher vitality, and better longevity. So if you take a look at intermittent fasting and the actual terminology that you go through when it comes about intermittent fasting means intermittent means on and off. And it's just a matter of timing. So for example, like the normal intermittent fasting window is always going to be like you'll hear this on YouTube or anything else, and I talk about this all the time on my YouTube program, is if you have an 8-hour window. Like say, for example, mine is I show up and I eat at 9. I work out in the morning. I come home. I eat at 9. That's when my testosterone's at its peak based on the circadian rhythm on the 24 hours. And then what I'll do is I'll eat at 1 and then I'll eat at 5. Now what I'm trying to do is trying to eat within that 8-hour window, which means I have a 16-hour window where I'm not eating. So that's why I say it's an on 8 hours, off 16 hours. Does it make sense? Okay. Now, With that, that can be done every single day, even on your shake days. So if you really want to turbocharge this thing and you want to shorten that eating window from 9 to 5 or from 10 to 6 or whenever you shuffle that schedule around, it can be done every single day while you're doing your fast or while you're doing your shake meal shake days. So the other item that you need to talk about is prolonged fasting. Now, what does it define on that? It's anything that's over 36 hours. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the schedule with you so you can understand how these schedules can mix into your day. And the easiest thing to do is just to set a schedule for it. And it's super easy to follow after that. All you got to do is, again, what you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat it. And once you set that up, it's automatic. It's super, super easy after that. The last thing is juice fasting. And what do we consider juice fasting? Well, you're combining intermittent fasting on your shake meal shake days, your prolonged fasting on your cleanse days, and you're doing cleanse on your juice days, which is the same thing as your prolonged fast. So what the cleanse does, what is that? That is actual nutrition support while you're doing your fasting. So since we're talking about nutritional support, let's talk about Isagenix Cleanse for Life. Now, one of the different factors between a cleanse day and a normal intermittent fasting day is the Cleanse for Life. Now, when you're doing the Cleanse for Life, this is a phytonutrient-rich botanical beverage that was designed to support and reinforce your body's natural detoxification systems. So when you're doing that, that provides a targeted amount of nourishment to help you feel energized while you're doing your fast. Now, when used along with the convenient Isagenix snacks, Cleanse for Life can help you feel your best on your cleanse days. Now, Isagenix snacks. First, let's talk about cleanse. So this is a 32-ounce bottle of the peach mango. This one's my favorite. I like this one more than the berry, just because I like the tropical flavor to it. Now, you can get it like this, or you can get it like this, to where it's in a powder. So this, I like to take if I'm going to be at home. I'll put this in the fridge, and I'll take a half cup, and I'll fill that up into a 12-ounce to go. So I actually make all of these in the morning. I'll take a half a cup, and then I'll fill the rest of it with water, and I'll do 4 or 8 of these, knowing if I'm going to do a back-to-back day, I'll take 8 of them and I'll put them in the fridge. So all I got to do is just reach in and grab them, individual, ready to go, and I'm good to go. Now, we can do that either as a liquid or as a powder. If I'm going to be on the road and I know my cleanse days are going to be taking while I'm on the road, I'll throw this stuff. This is a 2-day supply. I will put this in my suitcase and I'm good to go. That way I'm not traveling with any ready-to-drink liquids. Now, when it comes to snacks, all of these snacks that I'm about to show you are what we call cleanse day approved, which means they're 100 calories or less. Now, this is the Way Thin, and my favorite is white cheddar. That's my personal favorite. Sour cream and onion is a close second. They also have Harvest Thins. Harvest Thins are the plant-based protein. So some people, depending on your blood type, if you're AB, then you're going to want to go to the plant. If you're O, then you want to go to the protein. And then the other thing that you can do is your snack bites. These snack bites, these are my favorite. This is when they came out with the cinnamon roll, I was like, oh, beautiful. That's perfect. So those are what you do on your snack days, and I'll show you how that schedule works in. First, let's go through why fasting. So your body can only dedicate energy to one thing at a time. And that means it's either going to focus on digestion or it's going to focus on autophagy, which is what we call cellular rejuvenation. And I'll go into detail on this. Now, actually, I take that back. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to scratch the surface on it. If you need more information, feel free to go to firehorse.life on the website or on firehorse.life on Facebook, or find me on my Facebook, Matt Atwood. But I'm going to go into just very scratch the surface and all the details in my book. So, but what it is autophagy is repair, recycle, replace. When you find an old cell, which is called a senescent cell or a zombie cell, a cell that just won't die, okay? So those cells constantly spew toxins into the system. And because, like say for example, when you have a cell that is diseased or not working efficiently or is dysfunctional, that cell is going to have problems functioning, and it's also going to affect the cell next to it. So cellular communication, if I've got a healthy cell, let's say this is a grape and this is a raisin, how is that raisin going to come back to a grape, and how is that raisin not going to create another raisin right next to it, which is causing disease and oxidation? So I'm going to explain that to you. So here's an example on the left of a healthy, normal cell. And then the senescent cell is on the left. Now that stuff that's coming out of the little dots are all inflammatory markers. Now, what that means is all of that toxicity is going to be coming out into an inflammation process. So what you want to do is during your fasting is get into autophagy and start targeting these cells for regeneration. And I'll explain that while we go through the next round of fasting timeline. So we're going to go through what it looks like on the body's reaction by the hour of what you're doing on a fast. So the first 4 to 8 hours of eating, after eating, your blood sugar is then going to drop because your stomach now has gone empty. So now everything is in digestion mode inside your intestines, and now you're breaking all that down. At that point, insulin is no longer produced, and your pancreas, because there are no carbohydrates to digest anymore. So the glucose has already been done, the food has already been processed, and now you got glucose in the blood. Now, over the next up to 12 hours, now we're looking at the 12-hour window. The food has been burned and absorbed for nutrients. The digestive system then goes to sleep during fasting, and the body begins the healing process, which is called autophagy. So that's the stuff that we just talked about. In addition to that, you'll also get a crank up of human growth hormone. So while you're doing the fasting, after that 12 hours, you start to see an increase in all of the hormone production. So you'll also start to see triggers in releasing the glucagon and the main blood glucose balance. So what happens is when you start eating all that food and it breaking down into glucose, now you've got no more food, so the body will store it as glucagon. And while it's being stored, it is now being stored in your liver. So then as you're not eating, it still has enough glucose to be able to process energy for the body. Now we're getting into the 14-hour eating window. At this point, the body now has become, so now your body is completely out of glucose reserves and it still needs energy to function. So your body kind of says, okay, what do I do now? At this point, ketosis is when your body switches from carbohydrate burn into fat burn. This process is called fat adapting. So now what it's doing is it's now switching from, okay, I am now burning off any glucose. Uh-oh, we're out of glucose. What else do we have? Boom, we got stored fat. Let's start cranking out that. So what is the difference between a calorie and a ketone? Well, it depends on what source is being resourced. So carbs are broken down into glucose, which is converted into calorie for energy. Fats are broken down into fatty acids and then converted into ketones for energy. The neat thing about this is that ketones are 3 times as powerful as energy than a calorie. But we never get into the ketone stage because if you're always eating, you only have glucose and you never get into the fat burning stage where your body really starts to process through that energy process because it never gets into that trigger of fat adapting. Does that make sense? So also biochemically, it's much easier for the body to process glucose for energy than it is fat into energy, which is why we break our fast when we eat, which is why we call breakfast. It's a break from the fast of our 8-hour sleep. So that's the whole purpose. The other thing is HGH really starts to increase dramatically for muscle repair and tissue to support healing. Now we get into the 16-hour window. At this point, your body really ramps up that ketosis fat burn. And this is where the fasting benefits switch from just fat burning into fat burning and cellular rejuvenation or autophagy. At this point, if you are really wanting to crank that out as far as turbocharging this process, during your shake days, and keep in mind, this is the reason why I put it on the 16-hour window. During your shake days, if you shrink that eating window down to 8, now don't reduce the amount of calories, just eat the same amount but in a shorter window, you're going to find that you're not going to be hungry by the time you go to bed. And you're going to be just fine. But here's the neat thing about it is that if you can keep that magic 16 hours where you're not eating anything, you're going to be in ketosis and autophagy every single day. That's the reason why you do intermittent fasting on an 8-hour on, 16-hour off window. Now let's go past that. So now you're past the 16 hours. Now you're going into a prolonged fast. At this point, now you're at 18 hours. Your body's like, okay, wait a minute. He's not eating, So now let's start really cranking up the HGH, and let's start really targeting the repair process of the cortisol. So what's going to happen is your growth hormone and cortisol are going to increase. Now, growth hormone helps you maintain muscle mass and promote fat burning, while cortisol helps mobilize stored energy and maintain blood sugar levels at the same time. So even though you haven't been eating, your cortisol levels increase to try and increase that balance of whatever left you have in that calorie burn, and be able to create those hormonal changes that are believed to contribute to beneficial effects of fasting, such as improved metabolism, muscle preservation, and reduced inflammation. Now we're getting into the 24-hour mode. At this point, autophagy is at cranking high gear. And what it's doing at this point is now it's going, okay, we don't have any calories coming in. So now that we don't have any calories coming in, now we're in body preservation mode. So let's find everything that is not working properly and let's make it work more efficiently. At this point, we're targeting those senescent cells to say, okay, we either need to rejuvenate that cell, recycle that cell, or we need to start replacing that cell. And at this point, that's when all the healing occurs. And if you think about it, when you're sick, what's the first thing you do? Your body doesn't want to eat. It wants to go into a fasting mode already because it needs to heal. If you're eating, you're never going to heal. So that's why typically when you're really sick, you're just not hungry because your body's like, nope, we're in repair mode. I am not hungry. So now at this point, all the glycogen has been completely drained from any muscle tissue, because now keep in mind, now that your liver is now drained, now your muscles still have to function. And so now you're really getting to it. And this is what really pushes that ketones are now created as an alternative fuel for the body when the glucose is completely limited or depleted. Now we're getting into 36 hours. At this point, you're like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good at this point, believe it or not. Autophagy is increased by another 300%. At 36 hours, that is where the magic happens. And if you can get to that 36-hour window, that's when, man, your body is completely gone with glucose. It's now completely in ketosis, and you are burning energy like crazy, or burning fat like crazy, because you still need to maintain that energy. Now, at this point, in between that 24 and 36-hour window, you may not be good on your workout as far as like resistance training, weight training, or CrossFit training. But man, if you can crank that intensity up when you're on a bike or a treadmill during this point, and your muscles are now requiring more energy to function, that just spikes that fat burn like crazy at this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over, like, here's that 24-hour window. I'm going to explain to you how this works. Now, there's two different protocols on Isagenix, and I'm going to give you a third that I like to do for, psycho knuckleheads like me. So when you're going to a 24-hour fast, it's designed to be the first time fasting weekly, or when you're doing maintenance. So let's say you've hit your goal and you're like, okay, I don't need to do the 2-day fast anymore. All I need to do is just pick 1 day a week and do this. So, and it doesn't really matter what day you pick, it's just whatever fits into your schedule that's best. So for me, mine is during the middle of the week. I like to be able to target, if I'm going to do one fasting day a week, I'll target that one fasting day and know, okay, Wednesday's my fasting day, or Thursday's my fasting day, or Thursday's my off day at my gym, and that's going to be my fasting day. So it depends on what your schedule is, but as long as you target it, and again, it's planning, it's being able to put it in the calendar the right way and the right time. So here's what that schedule looks like. If you look at when hours are in blue are your fasting hours. Your fast begins at the end of your last meal on your pre-fast day. So in this example, this would be at 6 p.m. on a shake, and the green is where you drink your cleanse. So on that first day you wake up, you take your AM supplements, you take your cleanse, and then you are in your fasting mode. And you might, if you have a snack, awesome, have it like in between your cleanse periods, and your cleanse periods are every 4 hours. So if you have one at 8, that means you're going to have one at 12 and 4 and 8 as well. So if you are hungry, go ahead and have a snack in between there. It doesn't really matter. I mean, this is just easier to look at it by the hour, but or you can set it up in your calendar and let it remind you when you're supposed to have a snack if you want the snack. You may not want the snack. You may want to say, okay, I'm going to totally do the fasting, and all I'm going to do is cleanse. It's up to you. It's how your body feels and how you feel that it's working for you. Go ahead and run with it. Now we're going to get into 48 hours. At this point, Now we're talking about a back-to-back cleanse day. So autophagy really kicks in at 30%, and the immune system resets, and regeneration has already started. So the immune system at this point has gone, okay, blank out. This is why it's so important. If you can get somebody that's on cancer or diabetes to be able to go through a 48-hour fast, that is huge for them, because their body absolutely repairs itself in a very short period of time if they can pull it off. So now, increased reduction in inflammatory response. If you suffer from autoimmune disorders, fasting decrease inflammation like crazy, which is why people with autoimmune disorders should be fasting at least twice a month, if not, one day out of every other week. So that's why we do the two different options here. Now, if we can increased reduction of inflammatory response, and again, it goes back to the senescent cells. If you can start repairing any kind of cellular damage by doing just your fasting and being able to add that nutrition and toxic cleanse, it's perfect, man. It's so perfect. Now we're getting into the 72-hour window. At this point, your autophagy is kind of maxed out. I mean, you're at that curve and you kind of plateaued. You're really not going to get any additional benefit going into a 72-hour cleanse. So that's kind of why we look at this and we're just like, at that point, your body has been deficient for glucose now for a while. Now your fat burning has now kind of just started to poo-poo out, and now it's starting to target muscle tissue for additional protein or for additional energy, and that's not what we want. So based on that, you don't want to go past that 48-hour window. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the back-to-back schedule here. So at this point, the back-to-back is like for Isagenix. If you do a back-to-back schedule, what I like to see on Isagenix and what I do to some of my normal customers that are not wanting to do my fire hose protocol, I'll say, okay, pick your days, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, middle of the day. Weekends are hard because at that point you don't know where you're going to go. If you got the kids and baseball and hot dogs and all that stuff, you just don't want to deal with it. So usually during the week, it's a lot easier for me to do that, especially when I'm doing work, because I'm preoccupied. I'm not doing anything else. So I pick Wednesdays and Thursdays for me, and I'll go 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. That is the typical next level fasting for somebody in Isagenix. And again, now you understand why the hours make a difference, because the longer you go without fasting, the more physical benefit you have. Especially, it depends on if you're doing it just for somebody like me that just wants to stay lean, but still maintain my muscle mass and still keep, vascularity. Great. Go ahead and do that. If it's somebody that's sick, then awesome. You should be doing fasting on a routine basis. Now, this is what your schedule looks like on a back-to-back day. You're going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to just do it as a secondary day. So your dinner begins at 6, and you go through 2 days of cleanse, snack, cleanse, snack, cleanse, snack during the 4 hours for each day. And what's actually funny is the second day you'll feel better. Your head will feel clearer. That brain fog will be gone. You'll have more energy. All of a sudden, you feel tight. Everything feels great, and your clothes fit different. I mean, it really. I can lose about 10 pounds in a week if I really wanted to do this and stick straight to it. So now here's the extra bonus at the end for the fire hose protocol. This is a back-to-back cleanse day, but instead of doing it 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off, I do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And here's the reason why. If you end up doing your intermittent fasting during your shake days, okay, so you're on a 16-hour shake fast during your shake days, and then your body will start to normalize into that fat burning mode on a daily basis. So then it really gets used to it. It goes into homeostasis, right? Now, at this point, what's going to end up happening is when I do a back-to-back, bam, I am kicking that thing into gear, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we're past 16 hours. We really got it. And at that point, my body has flipped so fast. Oh, no calories? No big deal. I know what to do. No calories? No big deal. I know what to do. And then it really starts to affect how you do this on not only your intermittent fasting days, but also on a back-to-back day. And if you do it on back-to-back and 2 weeks off, that means you give your body the reaction time to be able to get used to it. But then when you do the 2 weeks off, your body now gets back into the normal mode of intermittent fasting, where it kind of slows down the metabolism again, and then you kick it again, and then boom, your metabolism goes straight up again. So this is what it looks like. And this is for any of you that are interested in the bonus side of this. Again, I try to go as fast as I can, and still this is way too long probably. But there's a lot of information that you have to go through when you're doing your cleanse days and you're doing your fasting and how the body reacts. So if you take a look at that 24-hour, every life form on Earth has a 24-hour clock, night and day, right? And that's what we grew up in as far as genetics. So everybody has something to affect. And with us, if I go into a 5:30 wake or 4:30 wake up, I'm at the gym by 5:15. I'm done with my workout by 7, home at 7:30, shower, coffee, sitting at my desk at 9 o'clock, or I'm breaking a shake, and then bam, there's my first meal at 9 o'clock. And then at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, I get a meal there. And then at 5 o'clock, I get a meal there. If I'm going to do anything other than just a CrossFit or something like that, I might go work out at 5 o'clock, because that's where my best muscle and cardio efficiency is going to be. So this actual schedule is in my book. And if you guys are interested in it, go to firehorse.life, take a look at it. But I hope this was beneficial for everybody, and I really hope that you have good luck with this thing and you keep going on the process. And I'm super excited about you being on the program. And please, keep staying on Amplified Health, and let everybody know how you're doing. I love the before and after pictures. Everybody brags on them and everybody shares them. So good luck, everybody. Talk to you soon.